Kel Supri, I say. Kel Supri. Keenan and Kel Supri. It turns out that Anthem is actually quite stingy once you hit the end game, and the loot drops start getting incredibly miserly when it comes to acquiring masterwork or legendary items. People's displeasure rose after a bug put things into perspective. Over the weekend, for a few short hours, those masterwork and legendary items appeared at a dramatically increased rate, something which is being called the loot shower. Funnily enough, when Anthem was not working as intended by BioWare, it was a lot more fun. People reported having way more enjoyment when it comes to playing Anthem during the loot shower, when people were actually feeling, I don't know, rewarded for playing, which I know is becoming a rather alien concept within the AAA game industry, but it does turn out that when players are being given lots of rewards and positive encouragement while playing, they tend to have a lot more fun with it. And I think it's just a perfect portrayal of the AAA video game industry overall, that a major big budget game like Anthem is a lot more fun when it's broken, when it's not doing what the developers want it to do, when its loot system is not working as designed. Having had a sweet taste of loot shower, players do not want to go back to that incredibly grindy endgame system, which, it now is, now that BioWare quote-unquote fixed it. Players are frustrated, players are annoyed, and a number of players on the Anthem subreddit have decided to organise a Blackout protest in a bid to, hopefully, but it is a long shot, hopefully get BioWare, and I'd imagine more importantly EA, to change their ruddy bloody minds and bring the loot shower back. The protest kicked off this week on March 11th, it's planned to go on until March 15th, and it mirrors a somewhat successful For Honor protest that happened a while back, where players are simply not going to turn it on. Now, if enough people do it, and that's the rub, if enough people do it, that is going to shit up a company, because these days it's not just about sales. You could say, oh well, blacking out isn't going to do anything because they've already got your money. But we live in an age not really of sales so much as engagement. Engagement is what matters. Are they still playing the game? It's not that sales are unimportant. Of course they're important. You want to sell as many copies as you can, and we still have issues with games selling below expectations, but that long tail is a lot more valuable to publishers now, which incidentally is why games end up so grindy if they're not there specifically to sell loot boxes or something. They just want to pad out the runtime to keep you engaged. And there's an element of irony to that, considering excessive grind is about the least engaging thing you can put in your bloody games. So anyway, that's why an organised Blackout, if successful, if enough people do it, and again, that's the rub, if enough people do it, that's how an organised Blackout still works, because these games are designed to keep you within their ecosystem, so if you're not engaging, the game's not doing its job. Now, this worked with For Honor because only 5 people played it, so, 3 people boycott it and you've only got 2 players left. I'm of course being facetious, I know For Honor had a lot more players, at least 15. Anthem is reportedly frustrating in its end game. It's not just that it's rare to find your legendaries and your masterworks, all you can't go wrong. Not only is it difficult to get them, the stats on items are also randomized, so you could get a masterwork, all you can't go wrong, and find out that it went wrong, that the stats are not what you want. You could spend ages grinding for a legendary item that you really, really wanted and find out that the stats are worse than what you've already got on. The super rare shit could be a downgrade, and that's no good, which is why the loot shower was so good for people, because if you're getting a lot more items, then the randomized stats aren't so bad. There's always a chance around the corner that you could get something you actually want. Now, the loot shower not only sounds like a better reward system for the players, it also just seems like a better idea from a business perspective. If you keep the randomized stats, but you increase the drop rate, then that keeps players on the hook, because they're like, well, I got the gun I wanted, but the stats are shit, but I've got another chance coming along very soon, I better keep playing. That's a lot more encouraging. That, in my mind, but of course I'm not a fucking marketer, in my mind that seems a lot better than a system where you grind for ages to get what you want, get it, and find out it's the last thing you need. If that happened to me, if I grinded away, plugged away at a game for ages to get endgame loot, and then I found out the endgame loot was wank, that sure as shit would make me turn the game off and not want to play it again, if I hadn't already done that ages ago. The so-called loot shower bug meant that players would complete strongholds and get up to 6 or 7 masterwork or legendary items, compared to before, where they could complete a stronghold and get nothing. This was a case where a bug truly wasn't a bug so much as a feature because people loved it. It wasn't breaking the game for anyone, this was the end game anyway. And it's not like they were using this shit in PvP against each other, they were all just having a lot more fun because again, as I've said, when a game's more rewarding, when a game's giving you lots of cool shit, people do tend to have a lot more fun with it. See Diablo 3 post-auction house. Once the loot drop system in Diablo 3 got a lot more fair for players, it turned out to be a way better game. And the only way that should be a problem for the developer is if they've got nothing else. If they've got nothing. And that's an overall problem with a lot of these modern live service games that the game industry's jumped onto so it can fuck the shit out of the market before jumping onto the next thing. So many of these games are now rushed out the gate at launch and promise a roadmap of content later. But because of that engagement, because they've got to keep you hooked, they need you still playing the game. They need you there, otherwise you won't give a shit in a few months' time when an update drops. So, what do? All they can do is just make the end game grindy as fuck, because there's no end to what you're doing. You're getting more loot so that you can get more loot so that you can get more loot. That's the content now, so it's hardly surprising that some companies want to grind that out as much as possible. And this isn't to say that games focused primarily on loot are bad. Again, I mentioned Diablo 3, I'm a big fan of Diablo 3. But even at launch, Diablo 3 was incredibly replayable, and they've only added more and more stuff since then. But even at launch, auction house aside, there was a ton of shit to do and enjoy. Whereas your modern live service games, they're like Anthem. Now, Anthem felt like a meaningless, self-perpetuating end game during the beginning of the game. It felt like there was this wasn't leading anywhere. This wasn't taking me anywhere I needed to go. It was just a self-perpetuating grind. I felt the same way in Fallout 76. I feel the same way with a lot of these modern live service games that are just big empty sandboxes with a promised roadmap of content later. Anthem seems to be going the way of the aforementioned Fallout 76 or Destiny 2 before it. A live service game for where updates and bugs just keep causing more controversy, keep generating bad headlines. Anthem has an issue with, crashing people's PS4s. That was an issue it had last week. There was a controversy over Anthem's level 1 rifle being the most powerful weapon in the game. Now, over time, Destiny 2's gotten better, and that seems to be what a lot of modern live service games bank on. They want that it's better now argument. The aforementioned For Honor has that. A lot of people who play For Honor now, all 17 of them, will tell you that it's better now. It had a terrible launch, but it's better now. And that's what a lot of these games are hoping for. They want players who stuck with it for a year to tell you 12 months from now that, oh yeah, when you played it, it was shit, but now it's good, play it again. But of course, you need to be a compelling enough game to keep at least some people on the hook to spread that message, if indeed the message is spread effectively, because first impressions still count for something. Now, to me, it doesn't matter how many people join this protest, how successful it is. I do not think Electronic Arts will respond to this in a particularly favourable way. One hopes. That'd be great, don't get me wrong. I would much prefer people having a lot more fun with a game they spent their hard-earned money on than not having fun with it. In a perfect world, Anthem would be incredible. I just want to really hammer home that point that Anthem was, according to many players, a lot more enjoyable until BioWare fixed the quote-unquote problem that was causing people to have fun. They fixed the fun to make it less fun. And that is a problem as far as I'm concerned, because I've been talking for quite some time now about how, modern AAA video games are getting less and less fun to keep people on the hook in less honest ways. It's not enough to have people want to play your game because they enjoy it. No, you've got to trick them into enjoying it now. You've got to treat them, you've got to try and encourage an addiction toward the game. Make the game feel like a chore, like a job, like an obligation, like something you have to log into every day for your bonuses, like something you've got to keep playing over and over again to try and get the loot drops you want. Things that are more work than fun. And it's not like BioWare looked at this and said, oh, people are having too much fun with the game, let's make it shit again. I'm sure they could give you all sorts of balance reasons as to why they stopped the loot shower, but that doesn't change the fact that the loot shower made Anthem a better experience for many players, in a way that didn't seem to be breaking the game for anybody whatsoever. Again, it's only a problem if people get all the loot they want, then realise, oh shit, there's nothing else to do. Which is something most people can work out after spending an hour with the game, let alone however many it takes to still be playing it now. And before we close out, I will just bring this back to something I've been saying for a few weeks now about many of these live service games, in that so many of them are so bereft of content, so lacking in actual engaging material, that people are filling the void of interest with shitstorms, with controversies, with things periphery to the game, with things, all of the controversy surround, all of the bullshit. I stuffed up the line. I tripped over my words. I don't know if you spotted where I did that, but I did do that somewhere in the video. But the point is that everything around Anthem is more interesting than Anthem, which is a point I've made in the Jimquisition before. It's a point I made in another video about Anthem. This is now officially my 5th video on Anthem, so you are all welcome to tell me that this is my 1000th video on Anthem, and that I've been talking about Anthem way too much. Do you get it? Because that's what happens when you do more than, 2 videos on any game, even if it's a big game everyone's talking about. Beating a dead horse, hammering on about it too much. This is your 1000th video.